There came a point in February when we decided that we just need to go. And if this is from God, it'll work out. And if it's not, then we will soon find out.
On the way, we began having car problems once again, and I knew I was going to have to fix it. And our first day in Bozeman, we met up with our friend Judy, who we met in Taiwan, and she warned us, watch out for the potholes. And sure enough, on our first trip to the grocery store, there was a huge bump, and we hit it, and then there was a big problem with the car. This was not the beginning of our car trouble. When we were in Taiwan, we were told that we were going to be given a vehicle when we got back to the States. Oh, this is awesome. We're going to have a vehicle. All we need to do is get a camper when we get back and we can go. We were given an Acura MDX. It had some issues. The wheel bearings needed to be fixed and the exhaust. I didn't know how to do that because I haven't done any car maintenance for 20 years. We looked on YouTube, and so we went at it and we started making some great progress. And you can see it right there. And I started thinking, oh yeah, I can do this. And so I found a Honda Pilot that had the same issues as the MDX. I thought I'll fix it and sell it and we'll be able to get a nicer camper. So I drive 2.5 hours to pick it up. Right before I get home, the axle falls out and the car comes to a complete stop 2 blocks before I get home. What about this?
It'll be great.
So I started working on that car. And I am frustrated. We're stuck. I seriously question my decision making not getting this car. So I decide I'm going to go to the rear wheel and change the suspension. I get the wheel out, and what I see shocks me. So you can see here, this is the shock, the rear shock, and it's just, the frame is just gone. Like there's a section of the frame that isn't there. It's just rust. And the rear suspension isn't attached to the car. This is supposed the sway bar, and oh man, we spent most of the day working on getting the axle out of the car. Finally got it out. It was like, oh sweet, we did it. I just don't even know what to think. I'm just sort of in shock because it's like, oh man, I'm gonna do something that helps my family. I'm gonna close this financial gap, and it just, there's nothing you can do. It's just totally gone. It's just broken. I don't know where to from here. What's next? How are we going to deal with this? It's really disappointing. So yesterday was a pretty rough day, and it's like, okay, I'm in this situation now, and you can melt down and you can quit, and then you're really in trouble, or you figure out how to move forward. I want to give thanks that I'm going to see God's goodness regardless of what happened, that no matter what the situation is, God is with me and He's going to help me. He can work a plan A, B, C, or D, and it may not be what we wanted, what we expected, what we hoped, but God never stops.
I feel great. I'm excited to see what's gonna come of it all, and it'll be interesting just how the story keeps unfolding.
So the Pilot has to be towed away. That attempt failed, but I have the MDX, and I'll fix that up and we'll get going. It's another morning in the garage. Today we're going to take care of the suspension. Yeah. More things are going wrong with the MDX. Fixing power steering, the air conditioning, the rear suspension, the lower control arms, the tie rod. I mean, there's just so much that's going on. Well, finally, now I think I'm completely done. I back it out of the driveway, put it into gear, and then the transmission fails. We don't have a car, and I'm wondering, God, what is going on? I thought you wanted us to travel. I thought we were supposed to do this thing. I thought we took this step of faith. We've been praying for a car for 6 months, and this?
I remember that moment that the transmission went out on the MDX because I was sitting on the couch with Theo and I was about to read to him. And I opened the book and I looked down, and the title of that chapter that I was looking down on, it said, "A Perfect Home." And it was right at that moment that Peter came in the house. He said that the transmission went out and the car was done. I feel like God led me to that page in the book just to give me that assurance and the peace that He's still in this and that we're not forgotten, and I don't need to be afraid. Eventually, we decided to buy a car that we found on Facebook that was located in New York City. So we ended up driving out to my parents' house in New Jersey to pick up this car.
Ended up being extremely stressful because we had to get a new title. It took over a month to come in the mail, and I didn't know if we were going to get it or not, or if we were just going to lose that car. At one point, I almost had a panic attack because I was thinking, what kind of father am I? What kind of husband am I? Why did I put my family in this position?
In January, I started to wonder if perhaps we were wrong. And I imagined, what if we were to just say, well, we thought we heard God, but we're going to try something else now because that didn't work out, like looking for a job.
I don't understand the delay. I don't understand the car problems. I don't understand why we don't have a camper. But I see God just providing what we need when we need it.
So we did keep waiting, and it was about a month later that I had the idea about going to Montana for a month.
No, leave him on leash.
Bozeman is beautiful. It is surrounded by mountains, and the boys have loved it because for so many years living in Taiwan, they had this longing to play in the snow. And so being able to come here and walk into the backyard and be waist deep in the snow has been more than they could have asked for or imagined.
There's a park close to our house, and view of the mountains from here is
Here we are back in Montana with car problems once again. And I didn't have the tools with me, and I was thinking, man, if this had happened in Grand Rapids, I could have fixed it. And I was like, God, why did this happen now? What am I going to do? Will you please help me? We shared with Judy that night, and she said, oh, you should talk to John David, my grandson. And he had all these tools because he works on cars. God didn't keep us from going over the bump. He didn't provide the money for a mechanic. But what he did provide was tools so that I could fix it. Well, it's a beautiful day. So here's the space that I have to work with. So this is turning all over the place. Finally. Well, it's the end of the day. I got one of them done. All right, well, we're back for round 2. I can't get the outer tie rod off, so I'm just gonna take it all off in one piece. Yes! A lot of frustration and some cut fingers, but I was able to get it done. And then Bo goes to the grocery store.
I was driving to a grocery store here in Bozeman, and I got the warning light that there's low tire pressure. So I was able to pull off to the first gas station that I saw, and I pulled right up to the air pump, and I got out of the car. And when I crouched down beside the tire, right there before me, at the very top of the tire, I could see that there was a screw that was puncturing the rubber, and I could hear the air hissing out. But now we have 4 new tires.
I thought stepping out in faith would be like one scary step, and then you're like going straight up to awesome. And it's just the first step that's hard. And instead, it has been step by step has been hard. Sometimes it feels less like jumping off a cliff and more like we just parachuted into the middle of the jungle with no trail. And we've got to hack our way through this jungle, fighting anxiety, fighting uncertainty, fighting fear, and choosing to give thanks, choosing to praise, choosing to trust. All we could do is take the next step that's in front of us. We've had painful moments, and we've had moments that are just mixed with beauty and a sense of God's presence and provision. I've been struggling to get this rubber boot on, and it kind of hurts, my fingers, and just really struggling. I got it on, then it popped off, and I was struggling to get it back on, and I just prayed. I said, Lord, will you please guide my fingers? And it happens immediately. It's something that's so minor in the scheme of the universe that God would guide my fingers to help fix a car. A lot of times the big questions don't get answered, and we wonder, God, why am I in this? Why do I have to go through this? And God doesn't answer. But it doesn't mean that God is absent. It doesn't mean that he doesn't care. It doesn't mean that he's not answering prayer. It doesn't mean that he's not at work in our lives. While we're waiting for the big answers, if we'll look to him in the little things, we'll see that he is active, that he is with us.
It's so cool to see the outline of the mountains, the sun going down behind the mountains.